AI can feel weightless, but every prompt is run through data-hungry energy centers that use electricity and water at scale. So what can we do? Hey Carnies, and welcome back to the Daily Carnage Show. I'm Shannon, I'm a digital marketing strategist at Carney, and I'm your host. And I'm coming to you from a heat wave today to talk about the environmental cost of generative AI. So grab your oat milk latte and let's get started. So personally in my community, there have been a lot of conversations about abstaining from AI, avoiding it altogether as a political statement. But if you're in the tech space or you're adjacent like us marketers, you understand that AI is already baked into everything we do. It's in search results, it's in ad platforms, it's in analytics dashboards, it is your CRM, it's your design tools. If you use Google, if you use Spotify, you're already participating. You don't have to query or prompt AI. It's already summarizing and predicting and optimizing before you ask it to. Right now, it is one of the fastest scaling infrastructures in the world. And it's very concerning that it feels like for a lot of people, consent is being removed when it comes to using a technology that has real physical impacts on energy, water, land, grids, and supply chains. Let's just start with electricity. Data centers powering AI could reach around 945 terawatt hours of electricity annually by 2030. And that number is nearly triple of the annual consumption of countries like Pakistan, Bangladesh, Nigeria, combined. And that demand isn't evenly distributed. It's clustered around major cloud regions, data center corridors, and AI training hubs. And that means that local grids, not global grids, are feeling that pressure first. This data center growth is contributing to immense grid demand. And so we have to have the conversations about what is the actual capacity? Who's going to pay for it? And how reliable are local grids for this demand? AI is becoming a structural load on electricity infrastructure itself. And then there's water. A major body of research has highlighted that AI systems require significant water use. And this is to cool down data centers. And some estimates suggest that that AI-related water consumption could be comparable to the annual domestic water needs of over 1 billion people by the end of this decade. More AI use means more thermal management is necessary. And unlike electricity, water constraints are highly localized. You can't just very easily offset a water shortage in one region with an abundance in another. So we have AI growth versus local water availability. We have data center expansion versus municipal supply, cooling demand versus drought-prone regions. So again, the question becomes, where is that cooling water coming from? And at what cost? We also have to talk about land. As much as it seems to, AI doesn't exist in total abstraction. It's actually contained by physical facilities, data centers, chip fabrication ecosystems, and real network infrastructure. AI's cumulative footprint is expanding at scale globally. And all of this infrastructure demand is not a one-time build because AI doesn't ship once. It's always retraining and refining and scaling inference continuously. And it expands usage across every surface it touches. So its environmental impact doesn't scale linearly. It scales with usage patterns and deployment strategy. It's a compounding system. And as we've seen in some of the mainstream news cycles this spring, these data centers are increasingly cited for economically disadvantaged, rural, and minority neighborhoods. This is nothing new. Those are the areas where you get cheap land and tax breaks and lax regulations and people who have to work so they can't show up to town halls. Because these facilities require so much continuous electricity, they often rely on fossil-fueled power plants, and that increases emissions and toxic air pollutants, exacerbating things like local asthma and respiratory issues. And this isn't just like any factory going up in your rural neighborhood. Data centers create very few permanent jobs once construction is complete. They're not boosting the local tax base or raising the median income. And I don't know if you've seen videos from local residents dealing with data centers in their area, but these things are also really loud. So now we have noise pollution too. The counterpoint to all of this that you're hearing right now is that AI is becoming more efficient per task. And that's true because of hardware improvements and model optimization and better inference techniques. They are reducing energy use per query over time. But a lot of academic and environmental research points out that total demand is rising faster than these efficiency gains. This is what they call the rebound effect. Even if each AI task becomes cheaper to run, usage will expand, applications will multiply, and AI gets embedded into more and more workflows, as we've seen. So the total system load still increases. It's marginal efficiency versus a really systemic impact. And it's that systemic impact that drives real-world consumption. And you can see this dynamic in play with other kinds kinds of technology. For instance, more efficient cars didn't reduce the total driving that we do. More efficient computing never reduced our total computing time. And more efficient AI may not ultimately reduce total AI demand. And as you know, all of this growth that I'm talking about has been exponential in a short amount of time. And along with consent, it feels like there hasn't been a lot of transparency. And just this week, the UN has explicitly called for AI companies and major technology firms to disclose environmental impacts more consistently and align expansion with renewable energy goals by 2030. The current reporting is fragmented. There are inconsistent methodologies, limited disclosure of water usage, partial energy accounting, and a basic lack of standardized life cycle reporting. The result is that if you're a regular consumer trying to understand your AI footprint, well, too bad. Next question. And if we don't have this information starting out, we can't really evaluate the environmental trade-offs of rapid AI deployment and infinite growth. So there's like a governance gap. What we're seeing is policy trying to catch up to infrastructure that is scaling faster and faster than regulation can even adapt. But let's break down what we know about that footprint. It's estimated that an AI-powered search uses around 10 times the amount of energy than a traditional Google search. And that makes sense. You think about old school search, it's basically you type a question, the system looks up matching pages, and it gives you a list of links. That's a relatively lightweight process. But AI search is entirely different. First, it reads your question, then it runs it through a large AI model. Then it has to generate a written answer from scratch. And all the while it's pulling multiple sources in real time. And that takes a lot of computing power. This 10 times more energy figure, it's not exact and it's not consistent. It's going to depend on things like how long the answer is, how complex the model you're using is, and how much computing is needed behind the scenes. No matter what, AI search is consistently heavier than traditional search. And when this process becomes the default way that people access information, every single one of those interactions is doing more work behind the scenes. Even small increases per search become very large when multiplied across global usage. But this is a marketing show, and it's my job to read marketing news and talk to marketers and poll marketers every day. So I know that many of you are thinking, okay, yes, this isn't aligned with my values, but there doesn't seem to be a viable way forward in our industry without participation. As I've said, it's already built into everything that we use and everything that we do, not to mention that people are feeling pretty explicit direct pressure from leadership to use AI to increase productivity. It doesn't feel like a choice because the alternative to being very good at using AI and selling yourself as some kind of technician is getting laid off and replaced by that technology. And for those of us who are lucky enough to feel some agency over how we use AI and when, here are some things to keep in mind and some things to share with your team and with leadership. It's not 2023 anymore. We're not AI naive. It's important that we no longer understand AI as free productivity. It's not. If you're going to use it, you need to understand what you're using. Every AI feature baked into all of our tools has a compute cost, has an energy cost, has a latency cost, is dependent upon infrastructure. That stuff is going to increasingly show up in pricing and product design and margins. Also, more AI isn't always better user experience. If you're integrating AI into things that you're building, speed matters, efficiency matters, but the model that you choose also matters. You can't just optimize for capability. You also have to consider, like any business decision, operational footprint. Basically, we need to understand AI and evaluate it like we do other industrial systems. Where are these models running? How much energy do they consume? What infrastructure is used? The ad platforms and analytics tools and content systems and personalization engines that marketers use every day, they mean that we are indirectly participating in a system with real physical constraints, and it's important that we keep that top of mind. I don't think this technology is going anywhere, and I don't think the majority of people are going to be able to opt out. I think it's important that we do understand the vocabulary of AI, that we do interrogate the infrastructure. Like every major advancement that has caused global tension and stressed systems and hurt people, we can't sit around asking the question, what if we hadn't invented this? What if we could go back? We now have to answer a new question. What kind of global system are we building to support it? And can that infrastructure keep up with the rate of adoption? Who's paying for it? How are we going to protect people from losing their jobs or losing their health or losing their peace? Pandora's out of the box. The train is on the tracks. This is an industrial revolution. As I've said before, I think we are all in the process of developing our personal manifestos in relation to AI, just as we had to with social media, with smartphones, with computers, all the way back into time. It starts out with, well, I'm not an early adopter. I'm not letting that into my life. You can stand still, but the world is still going to move rapidly around you. And suddenly you find yourself not able to pay with cash anymore. So you figure out where your boundaries are. For instance, okay, I'll be on Blue Sky, but I won't support X and I won't support Meta. I'm going to carry a smartphone, but I'm going to brick it at some point in the evening so that I don't spend all my time on it. I have concerns about Spotify, so I'll use a different music streaming platform. These are the really unfair and difficult choices that we have to make in order to keep our jobs, in order to keep connection to our communities in a world that is increasingly positioned around these kinds of technologies. You know, the internet as we knew it is dead, and that's probably a different episode altogether. What we build next collaboratively through pressure and legislation and participation, it matters because most people will not be able to opt out. I think it's important that we look really hard at these environmental impacts and we understand what participation means to us, that we reframe our perception of AI from invisible and free and impactless to something that has real serious cost, not just environmental, but social. Something that is backed by industrial scale resource systems that only become visible when you zoom out. Really, I think the more important influence we can have in these professional spaces that we inhabit within our constraints is just having these conversations, coming to the table educated about these infrastructures and who is paying these costs. And to that end, I'd love to know what kind of conversations you're having in your community, on your team. What is your personal manifesto in regards to your relationship with AI? Do you feel like you're able to have complete agency over that relationship? Head over to our discussion thread on our subreddit, The Daily Carnage. Happy to chat there about all of the things you're weighing on this. And that wraps it up this week for The Daily Carnage Show. Thanks so much for joining me. Make sure to like and subscribe across all our socials. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to our daily newsletter, The Daily Carnage. We send an email every day of the work week to help keep you the sharpest marketer in the room. So have a good one, Carnies, and I'll see you in the inbox.